I'm gonna start the recording.
Yeah, so it's been 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Um, I guess we could kind of start. I think I know a lot of people out here. Um, so Raymond, did you want to do introductions and sort of?
sure. Yeah. Welcome everyone to the fifth Wednesday meeting for October 2024. And tonight we'll be tackling the topic of block captains. Like the title of this evening is calling all Albany block captains present and future. So we're very grateful that you're here tonight. So there are notes, the company notes that you can access through this URL, the bit.ly URL, Albany CERT 2024 1030. There's a barcode. I'll also send out the notes afterwards and a link to the recording for tonight if you aren't able to grab this URL at this point. So, so saying the goal tonight is to talk about block captain and just to work with people here to think about the topic of block captains and how we can work together to organize our blocks and also work together as block captains so that we can organize our neighborhoods throughout the city. So we are Albany CERT. We're a 501c3 organization that partners with the city of Albany, particularly the fire department, to work on community emergency response. And at this point, I want to just invite Blake to welcome the new CERT graduates.
Sure. Let me see if I can. I want to make sure I can get back on the Zoom. There we go. Yes, I want to thank everyone who and let the CERT community know that we finished our fall CERT class with our final skills session last night. We had 12 graduates go through. It was fantastic to have them go through. They did a very good job. If we all remember, it's kind of confusing when you go through that skills session. It's an experience where you're thrown into all this stuff you've got to apply, and everyone did well, and we were excited, and we had good volunteers there for the moulage artists we had there, and we did a lot of they did a lot of the victims. We had about 10 or 12 victims, plus some dummies that were dead victims, and that were in there, and they just did a great job. So it was fun. It's always fun to get new CERT people through and in. And I did want to let people know that I've got all the information set up for the spring class begins March 25th, 2025, and runs there for the 8 weeks. It's over on May 6th. So if anybody, I'll have this information out and available, but if people ask you about CERT, or if you're talking to people in your block team or in your neighborhood and they want to do CERT or they're interested, the information's there. You can just send an email to me and I will forward it to them. I can forward you, anybody here, the whole class information, that how to enroll and all that. So things are going well with CERT there. Yeah. And I would throw out one other person that was in the class. We had a woman, Chin Li. She's a Chinese person, speaks perfect English, but she also speaks perfect Mandarin and Vietnamese. And one of the things that we'll come to a little bit later is we have a program with Cal Listos you'll hear a little bit about, but the idea is to get CERT training done in other two other languages other than English. So she can teach. She's now passed the class and she's agreed to go through the trainer. She's very sharp. And so we expect sometime in the next year to have a Mandarin CERT class in Albany. And we're the only one in the Cal Listos grant system this year that did anything like that. And so they're very excited of us getting that going. So it's good for Albany.
Thanks, Blake. So at this point, I'll turn the meeting over to Nick.
Yeah, hi everyone, Nick Peterson. So I've always had a strong interest in trying to actually bring back a somewhat robust block captain system for the city. And I think most people here know, but if you don't, the idea is that each block or length of street would have a person that would organize the neighbors, or at least know majority of the neighbors on a block, and be able to, in a time of an emergency, be able to be a point of information and knowledge about, responding to disasters, large-scale disasters. And those people would work during their time, um, just trying to get people organized, sharing information with them, helping them get supplies together, and encouraging them to be individually prepared. Because the best thing to do is for each individual family or household to be as prepared as possible. But it would always be good to have one person that kind of makes sure that's happening, and then they can have some communication with a larger group, either with Albany CERT Inc. or directly with the city, or kind of both, to be able to be as knowledgeable as possible about what to do and where the resources are in the case of an emergency. So in the past, Albany had a person who was literally on staff and organized this after the Loma Prieta earthquake. There was a strong interest in getting more organized for disaster response. And in 1997, there were approximately 125 block captains on a list, which the city maintained. And that was kind of, I guess I was here in the city at that time. Someone else in my block was a block captain. But since then, we put together this map here where the yellow ones are per that list. But if they're green, we've determined they're still active and being block captains, but the yellows are still unknown. So in doing a little bit of outreach only through email to this larger list the city had, it took a while for us to be able to gain access to it and work with the city to work out an acceptable way that we could use it without, we had to be conscious of not releasing personal information. But we got a certain very limited response. Most of people saying, because this was been such a long period of time, saying either, oh, I'm not in Albany anymore, or I'm not doing that anymore. And out of that, reconciled these 12 that are just sort of randomly scattered around Albany. So on this map, red and yellow pretty much mean we need captains on those blocks. So that's a challenge. I mean, there are about 190 blocks and we have 12, so we have much less than 10% coverage of the city with block captains. This says currently there are fewer than 20. We didn't really know. And after doing some outreach, we realized we had even less than 20. So one of our goals in Albany CERT is to update the block captain list. I think we're going to move ahead and just try doing phone calls to this last group of people that were back in 97 active. And I think what that's going to do is sort of back up the email response and pretty much show that 90% of them are non-active now. So we'd really like to think of ways to do outreach and get more folks involved. Of course, we were hopeful in this event people would come and find out more about it, but we've got 13 people here with about half of them probably all really knowledgeable, or some of them, like myself and others that are in Albany CERT, are block captains. So very interested in getting people's ideas on how to do more outreach. We'd like to work also with the city. It seems like when communications come from the city, people are more mindful and more willing to respond. If they just come from a group, Albany CERT Inc., they're a little less hesitant to say, oh yeah, I want to get involved with you. It's more like, well, what the heck are you? And isn't the city doing something about this? So it takes a lot of time to reach out and try to um, get people interested and step up. I guess we've been working through the CERT group to see if there are any people there. You do not have to be CERT trained to be a block captain. It's probably a nice idea, but it's not required. So what is required and what does a block captain do? So let's go to the next slide. So block captains, like I say, you're like an embedded emergency response person in your neighborhood. So basically, the primary role is to help neighbors get organized and make sure they themselves are ready to act in the event that a large scale, like mainly a large earthquake, but if there's disruption in power or large, smoke event or fire event, anything that will impact regular activity for, over a few days or a week. That's when you really need to know uh, how to take care of yourself when there aren't the normal. I mean, you try to get the police or the fire department, and you're not going to get them. So typically, block captain, come up with activities that sort of help bring neighborhoods together, and they'll conduct meetings regarding disaster preparedness. It's kind of nice to have host a meeting of neighbors. My block is quite large. I haven't actually done that, and I started being a block captain during COVID, so I actually did my initial outreach via mailed, a flyer about myself and what a block captain is, requested people just email me their information. And then back that up when things got less fraught with COVID and we had vaccines, then I went around and hit the remaining people that hadn't responded with flyers and did door knocks to try to get them to sign up, and got maybe another 25% of those people. Some people just don't like to join things. They're just happy to be on their own, I guess. So you can distribute informative flyers and emergency supply lists, arrange meeting topics and activities to be undertaken by other block members. And like Michael was mentioning, it's good to try to get other members kind of on a team and to have assistant block captains, especially if you have a big block. And I have not yet been successful on that. But it's good to have co-captains who take on other responsibilities, maybe maintaining a map of the neighborhood with people's names and who lives where, and where gas shutoff valves are and things like that. So, and then the other thing is to stay participatory in city meetings, that are related to emergency response and emergency infrastructure, and keep your neighbors aware of that. Next slide. Now, was this the one? This isn't the one Susan was going to talk about, is it, Susan?
Yes. Did you want me to do that now?
Well, if this was
Excuse me, you're still on, Nick. This is
this shows a map.
The map is a certain block on Cerrito Street, and it's just illustrative of
Right. So
one way that you can organize the information, so
right.
you get everything at a glance.
There's no standard required way. There's actually a block captain manual that has a lot of really good suggestions of things that block captains can do and ways to organize the information. Actually, what I was always hoping is Albany CERT Inc. Some of us have created introductory templates, a template that you can put your name and write and fill it out to be an introductory thing about how you are now the block captain. I guess the question is, how do you become a block captain? I mean, basically I think it's still that you call the city fire department and tell them you would like to be a block captain, and they put you in touch with us because we're the ones that are supposed to be keeping track of who's a block captain. You have to be willing to allow your email address and a phone number be available to people who are on your block. So, if someone contacts the fire department, says, who's my block captain, they have to be able to give that information to a person that's on your block. And I have never had any problems with that. So again, block captains need to be pretty willing to have some information, phone number, and email available for others on their block. So once you notify the city you want to be a block captain, it's kind of up to you to then notify your neighbors. That's what you are. So, and again, as you're being block captain, in prep for having responding to emergencies, you want to develop subgroups or have people that can help with, when the event happens, oh, you guys are going to go do damage assessment. You guys are going to go door to door, make sure everybody's okay. And then you plan an area where you will gather, which sort of depends on the event and how structures have endured it. And then be able to have someone that can sort of do triage and first aid. Just first aid in the sense of stabilizing people, because the idea is you don't actually give medical care. So other things you can do if you get more organized is raise funds for first aid, disaster kits, and other readiness supplies, and have block parties, and then gather information about what members of your street have certain skills. Some people are good at construction. Some people might be good at, you might have some nurses and doctors on your block. So that it's good to know what people are capable of in case there's an emergency. Again, we talked about this map making, where you have a map of the block, and this is just an example of one. I've seen others where it's more, you're in a hilly area with curvy blocks. That's a little different. Or even, if you don't actually need to do a map, you can actually just do a Excel spreadsheet list or something like that may have the information just verbally, in text on cells. So who's in the house and whether they have pets, that kind of thing. And then, I mean, if you really want to get it, you can have special guests. There's also information about especially supplies that are available. One thing I've focused on my block is just really letting everybody know they need to get fresh water storage containers and get them set up now, because one of the most important supplies you're going to need if there's a long-term disaster, water becomes really important, because it's likely, especially with an earthquake, the water supply will become contaminated and non-dependable. You'll have to boil in order to use it. That's always a problem, especially if you don't have the resource, or gas is down and electricity is down. So it's good to have many gallons of water stored, ready to use, just so you're not short of that. So there's actually La Marinda over the hill in Contra Costa County. La Marinda CERT has a twice yearly water container and fire extinguisher sale where they bulk buy, and you can get in on that. And I always notify the folks on my block, hey, this is happening. If you haven't done it, definitely get a stack of 5-gallon containers and get them ready in case of an emergency. And then, if we were even more organized, with the annual citywide disaster drill, can sort of participate in that. And there are even some locations where they have radio communication set up and can talk back and forth to the emergency command center from the block location. Next slide. Oh, I guess I talked about this. There is a site on the city website, on the Albany City website, you can go to I want to in the more information about the city tab, and then become a block captain. It'll throw you this page, has this little picture, and you can sign up. Let's see, it looks like they want you to also let us know. And it's not like someone's going to come out and check you out, or send you a bunch of information. There is a link to the online block captain manual, but it's a really kind of self-starter thing. And again, if you communicate with us at albanysert@gmail.com, we've certainly got people available that can help out and give you sample data sheets and flyers and whatnot, so that you don't just have to start from scratch. But I found it was a very good way to meet all your neighbors, get a better idea of how of what's going on. Of course, people come and go, so when new neighbors show up, it's always good to go introduce yourself and see if they can be on your list or help out as an assistant block captain. I think the next one might be, but Susan, did you want to say anything more about? There it is. This is the one Susan wanted to do.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, yep, this is it. This is it. Okay, the first one, don't be afraid to knock on the door at your neighbors. Okay, let me just say though, before this, the easiest thing to do is to have a blank page or two with spaces for the things that you want to write down. So for example, you could just start out with an address, and then you need spaces for occupants, spaces for children, and spaces for pets. So you want to start out with a blank page so that it can be filled in. And don't be afraid to knock on doors, especially when newcomers move in. Let people know that we want everyone to be safe in a disaster, and that's why we're doing this. We ask for the most information, names, as I said, and the thing that you want about children also is their age, their name and their age. And then we talked about pets. Okay, and then I suggested that you have the house number written ahead of time, but then you or your resident would fill in the phone number, an email, or an email address. The best thing to do is to update it once a year. And if someone is reluctant to give you the information, it's okay. Just say, what's a better time for me to come? I'll come back then, so that they don't feel pressured. Then let's see, ideally, we have a connection about the preparedness, and Nick has already said that. And some of the things that we need to have to be prepared, one of them, as he already talked about, is the water. There may be people on the block that have some information, like Nick mentioned, that would be helpful to give to other people. And any capabilities that maybe your neighbors have that would be helpful to share. Maybe they have some skills, or like one of the things that I think is talked about in the training sessions is that you have a go bag. And a go bag is everything that you'd need for just a very few days or nights, that you could just grab if we had a serious emergency and we had to leave our homes. And then any other resources that might be useful and helpful in a disaster. I found that I can't get all the information I need from everyone in one visit. It takes me 2 or 3 times to visit to get people at a good time for them. And sometimes the person that answers the door isn't the person that is most agreeable to give you the information, and that's okay. So you just need to be open to flexibility and getting to know your neighbors on their time frame and their interest group. So I'm sure there's several of you on this event and anybody else that might have some things that they'd want to add or contribute. So Nick, I give it back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. I had a question. How many people are on your block, and do you think you have been able to contact all of them and get all of them participating?
I think I know most of people on my block. I don't know if it's just for me or not, but um, where do we share that information, or do we just keep that on track for future CERT stuff, or how does that work? Sorry, I joined late.
Yeah, so hi, Catherine. Have you volunteered as your block captain?
I have not at the moment. I'm a little busy with some current
Yeah,
personal projects, as you may know, which is why I'm off camera feeding the baby.
yeah.
But wanted to check about responsibilities and how do you share the information.
Yeah, so by sharing information, certainly you want to talk to your neighbors and you let them know I'm collecting this information. It's not going to be shared with anyone. It's used for the block captain to notify and maintain um, connection with the neighbors that they're keeping informed. Now you can also some groups or some neighborhoods actually do share the neighborhood list, which is very convenient, especially if they really know a lot about and have been together for quite a while. They tend to know each other anyway. It's very convenient if they need to contact a neighbor or, confirm that, someone's pet is in fact their pet or whatever. So it's kind of nice. You get this list of names and usually phone numbers. And if all of a sudden you want to go, oh, I'm going to call so-and-so and make sure I don't have their dog in my backyard, you can do that. But everybody kind of needs to agree to that. But certainly the information doesn't go outside of the neighborhood. It's not like it get posted on a certain place where just the general public can see it. That's not the idea. So you have to kind of work that out with your neighbors and be mindful that privacy concerns are a real thing these days, and some people don't want their phone numbers and even email addresses getting out in sort of general knowledge. So again, you have to kind of work that out, work with your neighbors. And what I was wondering, since Susan has done this for a while, and I think Susan, you're on is your block like 20 households, maybe 30?
Um, well, it's more like 40.
Uh-huh.
We have two apartment buildings also
Oh, okay.
at the
Wow,
end of
yeah. The apartment buildings bring up a whole nother thing where I always thought there should be a building captain. If you have apartment building that's like if it's more than like 6 units, it might be good to try to get someone that organizes the building, but we have yet to get to that level. So what would you say out of your 40? When you say 40, does that include individual apartments or is that?
No, because the individual apartments addresses are not on Evelyn. But I just am aware that they're also here just in case. So I so your question, what was your specific question, Nick?
Well, what I was sort of wondering is if you have 40 households that you try to get in that are in your block, let's say, how many did you actually convince to give the information so you can communicate with them?
Actually, I made 3 visits up and down the street, and I got everyone.
Wow.
But it just takes time. You just have to be
Yeah.
patient.
Yeah,
Um,
that's pretty admirable.
you
So
know, when you think about it, I mean, when would you have somebody over your house? We're all busy. So,
Right, right.
so you
Yeah,
just,
so you have to spend a little bit of time doing it.
right.
Now, and now that you've established yourself as the block captain, how much time a month do you think you spend on block captain activities?
Actually, I probably need to spend more, but in the
That's how
process,
you feel.
excuse me, one of my neighbors has has also become interested. So between the two of us, I feel like we have a list, and she knows some people, and I just take that information. So, and that's very possible thing that I wanted to contribute, that a block captain can also have shared responsibilities with someone else that knows neighbors better than you do.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, well, thank you, Susan. I really appreciate that. That's a good idea. So
My
again,
pleasure.
I think, it does take some effort. Once you get the initial push to gather everyone together is probably the largest amount of effort. And
Yes,
then once you're established, in fact, I agree with Susan. You can get a little lazy. I send out these emails, but I think it's probably good once a year to try to at least go around and knock on doors, reintroduce. Some people have moved or their life situation has changed.
right,
Even phone numbers and emails change. So it's kind of good to try to redo that. And
right.
I'm thinking of trying to get back into that after the election.
The other thing is to participate in other activities like the fire department's um, what it is, National Night Out.
Yes.
So other activities that are on your street, or for example, if the street's closed for something, just be out there and be available and participate. And so other things come along that maybe you can use to revisit um, getting to know your neighbors.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. That's great. Let's move on to the next slide.
Hi, folks. I was going to cover the next two slides, if that's all right.
Great, go
Thanks.
ahead, Michael.
Thanks very much, Susan, for what you do. And I think you're doing stuff that, different people have different personalities. And to me, it's scary. There's other things I can do. On my block, we share, this is scary season, so I'm talking about that. We share that on my block, and it's very shared to the point where my block captain does much less than half the work. And other people, one woman is very good at collecting and updating the block list. And here's where I wanted to say, on my block, everyone gets a copy. And we have an email list, and we have 100% compliance. I'm not sure about the email list, but I think just about everybody is on the email list. And I wanted to really give a pitch for this. If you do have a block where people are open to that idea, having an email list of everybody is mostly not about disasters. It's good when make an announcement about water storage a sale or something like that. But 90% of the traffic on the block list is nothing to do with disasters, and just people are sharing each other's, asking each other questions and sharing each other's concerns. And so once again, I think the biggest obstacle to, probably the biggest obstacle to developing a block captain in Albany is that it's so much responsibility, and you might feel like everything falls on your shoulders. Well, my block captain, what falls on his shoulders is he's keeping the cribbing. And he's a big, strong guy, and I would definitely want to rely on him. If I needed somebody big and strong who had the gear, why, he has that. He's also got some leadership skills. He's a working fellow. He doesn't do that. He doesn't have as much time for example, as the retired nurse who we would rely on for medical ops, and she's a co-captain.
Nice.
And so that's that story. On National Night Out is great. I think just about every National Night Out block party should, talk about this stuff. Sometimes it has been difficult. People want to have fun, and I want to show them my Go kit. Still, I do it. There was another block party on the 800 Jackson the other night, and one of Nick's yellow dots. I walked down. I said, "Does anybody know who the block captain is?" She moved away. But Blake just graduated 2 of them on 800 Jackson. I don't know if they're here tonight. And I talked to them. One of them was wearing a CERT hat and had a nice conversation with he and the other one. And I'm hoping that the 2 of them, rather than dumping it all on one person's shoulders after their block captain moved away, I'm hoping the 2 of them can. So I'm working with them. Another case is 1000 Evelyn. We think we may have a block captain. But he's got like 2 or 3 others that are involved from the beginning. And I think it's going to help that fellow a lot. Let's see. Nick said something about eventually a citywide drill. I hope so. That would be a bonding experience if we can. And we're supposed to be doing that anyway. I don't think it's 2025. Let's hope 2026. And we had a comment about Halloween. Now, 1100 Evelyn is going to do an experiment. They're going to take 2 people on 1100 Evelyn tomorrow night are going to take their kids. There might be a 3rd adult, I'm not sure. And when they knock on doors, they're going to try to get the beginnings of Organize Your Neighborhood. I guess what I think it's going to be is more or less what Susan said, not what's your name and what's the pet's names, but is there a good time when we can talk about disaster preparedness? And I think that makes, I hope that doesn't ruin Halloween. And I wonder if, maybe I should stop here and ask if there's any opinions. I see Catherine's thumb is up. She likes the idea. I want to say some other parents have said, I don't know, it's hard enough to control kids on Halloween without getting distracted. If maybe Raymond, I could just open up a little bit. Does anybody have any pro or con on?
One additional thing is that UNICEF has this trick or treat for UNICEF and Halloween thing too in the past, like Spare Change. So they're not the only group to consider having additional stuff on Halloween as well.
Oh, Catherine, when I was a kid, it wasn't trick or treat, it was trick or treat for UNICEF. But the adults knew, and it just took 5 seconds. They'd put a nickel or a dime in your box and then give you the candy. This is a conversation about scary stuff, real scary stuff. And there are kids underfoot. So when I polled Albany CERT leadership team, the answers that I got were, this might be good, but I would be very cautious. The kids' safety comes first. That's what I kept hearing. Anything else? Any other comments on Halloween recruiting for block captains?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to chime in on that too. So at my place, and I think this is pretty common in Albany, where especially when you're where it's level and there are not a lot of steps. I mean, you get a lot of kids coming through and you're very busy. And I've even had up to 200 trick-or-treaters on some nice years. People actually come from other neighborhoods to our neighborhoods because they're safe and they're easy and all the houses are close together and we give good candy. But I think if you might suggest to the people doing this that they have a flyer, an introductory flyer that has their names and what they're doing, and then their email address, and say, if you could just email me, your information, we'll keep it. We're not going to spread it around, but this will allow us to communicate you about disaster preparedness, and you can actually, contact us and let us know when we could come by and explain more. And that allows you to dump off a lot of information without you know, just at a greeting at a door and there are a bunch of kids lined up and things are happening and they're maybe a little frazzled because the doorbell keeps ringing. It might be an easier way to do that than to try to actually get them to fill out some information right then.
I'm going to write them right away and ask them if they need a flyer. That's 1100 Evelyn is going to try this experiment tomorrow night.
Yeah, if they want to see the one I made for my block, I'm more than happy to share it with them.
Thanks. Someone has their hand up.
Hey, Katie, just wanted to, I think it sounds great to do the outreach that way. I just wanted to share that in our neighborhood, there is not a lot of adult to adult interaction on Halloween. So the kids come up to the door, but if they are with adults, the adults are waiting out in the street. So I don't know how many folks you'll actually contact adult to adult, but it doesn't hurt to try.
I should clarify that the folks on 1100 Evelyn are going to accompany their two young ones around the block on both sides of the street, I guess.
So they're
That's how they're gonna
themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But it
That'll
could work either way.
Yeah.
And
Well,
they're
it'd be
going to
really
be
tough
answering
to-
the door when they're done. So I know what you mean.
Yeah. It'd be tough to do it the other way because a lot of times the adults don't come up to the door and you'd have to lean out and go, hey, are you a neighbor? And a lot of the people aren't neighbors. So I think their idea is really good. Accompany their kid and then just very quickly the person at the door say, hey, here's some information about emergency preparedness awareness. Please look at it, and I'm more than happy to give you more information later. You know, and just leave it at that.
Nick, do you have a flyer for tomorrow for Halloween we can use to print out?
I have a template that was built out of my introductory note that I did. I could I'll send it to Michael, and he can.
If I knew there was interest, I would have put something together. But I did. I was looking for tonight as the opportunity to run the idea by the assembled people.
Yeah, you know what I'll try to do here as while this is happening, I'll try to do it's a Google Doc, so I can do a Google link and make it available to everybody. So let me see if I can put it in the chat.
Likewise, I'll find out if the 1100 Evelyn folks made their own flyer. They might have.
Yeah, okay, well, carry on.
I have one more slide for you folks. And that's that there are some changes to the block captain program. And when I moved to Albany, pretty much all you needed to know was here's the manual and here's the phone number to call the fire department and talk to them about your block captain and no one else. At a certain point, when you started making that phone call, the fire department would say, we're not sure if your block captain is still around. And they didn't feel comfortable giving out names of people who they weren't sure were here. Basically, that ended up with a big hairball in the fire department, and they couldn't deal with it. So last year, Albany Fire asked officers of Albany CERT Inc., the nonprofit, to manage the block captain program. Nick had kind of been doing it anyway. So, and also to recruit new block captains. Now, that's one thing that changed is we're administering it. I don't know that we asked for this. I think it was thrust upon us. But it's okay, we agreed. Now, we haven't done this yet because we only really have the 12 confirmed. And I should say, there's probably another 8 or 10 that they may not call themselves block captains, or they may have a vague idea what the block captain program is. But I found about 8 or 10 others that are, I'll say, have leadership skills, have block lists. They have some disaster prep training, whether it's CERT or Red Cross or search and rescue. They might be an ex-park ranger or like that. There's a few, while we have 12 block captains, I'd say we have 8, 10, 12 others who are maybe going to help us reach critical mass. At that point, our intention is to distribute an updated block captain list to the block captains. Why? We want the block captains to know who are the block captains on your adjacent blocks. Some efforts to organize Evelyn, block to block, possibly Jackson, block to block. I'd like to do Washington. People should know who the next block captain is. It would be very, I hope you understand, it would be very hard for us to make a list for each block captain. Well, you get the adjacent blocks. No, our intention is to have one list and to give it to block captains. And here's the key on the new privacy considerations. Just as a block captain treats their block list with respect, don't sell it for junk mail. You can probably get 25 cents a name if you did that. I'm joking, but don't give personal information out unless you have a very good reason. Likewise, when you receive the block captain list, when we have a list of blocks and captains, you'll need to protect the privacy of the other block captains. I hope that's clear to everyone. You'll be in a little funny position. You might be protecting the privacy of everyone on your block and protecting the privacy of all the other block captains. I don't think it's that big of a demand. I hope no one here feels that that's too demanding. And the new way that City of Albany wants to organize the block captain program with us volunteers in charge. Thanks. That's my thanks for listening to my long speech.
Okay. One thing I was going to mention, I put a link in the chat, and this actually doesn't have it has a sample spreadsheet, and then it has a response that we did that has to do with block captain, the current block captain list, and contacting people who are on it. So I'll try to find the template I made and put it in the same folder so people have access to it, but you won't find that template right now. So I'll try to do that tonight.
It'll be over later.
Well, I think at this point, it'd be useful just to have a conversation about what we've heard tonight. Thanks, Nick and Michael and Susan, for this really stimulating conversation about block captains. But we wanted to foster some conversation about our efforts to organize our blocks.
I had a quick question now that I see everybody here. I know Susan Barnes is a block captain. Brett Shepherd is, so is Blake. I am. Raymond is. Are there any other people on here that? Nona, you're a block captain, right? You're muted.
No, I'm not.
Oh, you're not. Oh, okay.
We're looking for one. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Anybody
I
else
was
a block captain that I don't know. I see.
Katie here. I've expressed an interest in being one, and now that I've finished the CERT training and collected some neighbor info, I think I'm well on my way. I just need to close the loop and formally announce my interest, I guess. Is that the next step?
Yeah, I mean, you would just email the Albany CERT at gmail.com, and then I think the go see what it says on the block captain page on the city thing. I lose track of whether they want to be in the loop or not.
So I did click the link. That's actually kind of how I wound up getting CERT trained. So when you click
Oh,
the
okay.
link to contact Tim Smizer, it instead sort of redirects somehow. And so I wound up on the mailing list that Raymond manages,
Yeah,
which is
okay.
great. But it didn't actually result in anyone being like, great, now you're a block captain.
Well, thank you for stepping up and looking into it. It sounds like we need to smooth the process a bit more, and have you send in a letter. I think if you send it to albanysert@gmail.com, we'll respond saying, hey, that's great. And hopefully give some links to some information that will be helpful to you.
I will do that right now.
Yeah, okay, cool. We got a block captain. We're up to 13.
Yeah, my name's Heather. Michael mentioned going to a block party a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, I'm new on Washington, and I just finished CERT training last night. And there's Ahmed on my block, and I met him. It was a lovely party, except it was live rock and roll, and you couldn't hear hear the person next to you talking. So, but I was kind of shocked moving to the neighborhood. Everyone thinks the disaster will be somewhere else in Albany, but it will not be up in our block. But then I talked to some other people who kind of get it. So I imagine between myself and Ahmed, as I say, hopefully before the next disaster, we'll get a little more organized.
Great, good to hear.
Heather, is Ahmed the other CERT? Was that the fellow?
He's the guy with the cap on.
He had
I
the
think
hat.
yeah.
I
He
didn't
was the
get
one
his
with the cap
name.
on. Yeah, no, and I've just been busy taking the CERT class and other things, and I'm about to take a month-long vacation, so it's just not gonna happen for me till probably January, but I do have Ahmed's contact information, told him I would reach out to him when I finished.
Well, really good to hear that people are interested in stepping up. Again, it's
And I was just wondering, in some of your information, rather than, I assume that all your contact information is on your flyers, and maybe
yeah,
people don't
yeah.
talk at the door, but if all
Um,
of a sudden they're going to see a disaster somewhere else, so this could happen to us, and maybe I will reach out to that fellow Nick or or Susan or
yeah,
something.
what I might do is just put my introduction flyer, which I modified again as another flyer that went out, talking to people about a block party on the back,
Yeah.
which we did I think it's been a couple of years now. But it's nice to have a format. You can use it as a template. But yes, absolutely. I put my name, my number, my email address.
Good.
You just have to be willing to do that. I mean, if you're the kind of person that doesn't want that information out there, then you're probably not the kind of person who should be a block captain.
Agreed.
Great.
Agreed. Blake,
Blake?
go.
Hey, Nick, and everybody. I'm one of the recent CERT grads. She has asked to get involved in cleaning up or doing more work on the block captain list, and so I'm going to meet with her on Monday morning. If anybody in this group here wants to join me, let Nick or in the CERT group about that. The question I want to make sure is that we keep within the parameters of what we're trying to evolve with, making sure the block captain list is grown and available, but yet it's not put out to the wrong people and information doesn't get out to the wrong people. So anyway, things we're always talking about. I don't have the right answers exactly, but I'm trying to explore this person's interest as a CERT person. Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to, are you doing that in person or virtually?
Yeah, in person down at the Albany Royal Grounds.
Oh, what time are you doing that?
8:30 Monday.
Ooh,
I know
Hey,
it's
that
early.
person is me.
It's
it's
there you
Katie.
go, Catherine.
Oh,
Good
it's
here.
oh,
It's Katie, not Catherine.
Hey, Katie Vigil. What's your full last
Yeah,
name?
Vigil McClanahan.
McClanahan. There you go. Yes. So Katie is very interested in helping out some way here, and we have a similar problem of not being able to complete all this stuff. So it could work out well. What do you guys think? I mean, what can we do to take advantage of that?
Well, there's so many things. that brochure that we were just talking about, whatever we have could possibly use great improvement. I don't know how, I'm not a good person to be knocking on doors. It doesn't fit with my skill set, and I'm so glad to have, I'll leave her name out, the person on my block who is very good at that, whose skill set is comparable to Susan C's. It depends a lot on, we have to, just like we have to get to know volunteers and what they can do. This person can do first aid, but they're not gonna lift the dumpster off of if it falls on you. We need to get to know you, Katie, and find out what you like to do and what you're good at. Is that reasonable?
Oh, hi. Well, no, I mean, I think just to clarify, I had specifically asked Blake if I could help with updating the list because I sounded like that was a pressing need.
Yeah, and then I think we can talk about that when, I'll try to make that meeting and I'll try to print
Oh.
out the list.
Contacting old block captains who have not responded to Nick is worth doing. If you're willing to do that, you would be doing good work.
Yeah, and I think the next one is we're not going to do a email again because that didn't really generate a response. We'll just go to phone numbers.
A lot of spam filters out there. A lot of people won't answer the phone if they don't know who it is. And Katie, if you have ideas about how to overcome some of those obstacles, we'd love to hear them.
If you call twice in a minute, sometimes a repeated call gets through on some settings for phone stuff. But I think I agree that knocking on doors is the most effective.
I've also had some people that have I've reached out and calling for either block captains or CERT going through, and a number of people they've switched to their mobile phones, and what was on was their landlines, and those landlines are there, but they're phasing them out as time goes by. So a lot of our block captain numbers are wrong for reaching people.
Yeah.
So that's part of the work we need to do.
Where is Sunday morning? Where?
Royal Ground.
What? Royal Grounds. It's on Solano there.
Oh, come on, that's the happening little spot. It's right next to it's across Canes from the movie theater.
That's right.
Is that Thursday or Friday?
Monday at 8:30 a.m.
Monday, 8:30. Okay. I doubt if I can make it, but it's interesting.
We don't need to have everyone there.
How many volunteer groups in Albany rely on Royal Grounds as their seemingly official meeting?
Yeah. It's a great place.
That's
okay.
Good.
Well,
okay.
It sounds like we have some movement on that. That makes me very happy. Thank you, Katie, for your interest in helping out. I actually have interact a lot with Katie. She's in another group. I'm in the Albany Climate Action Coalition, and she's also on the Albany Climate Action Committee, advising the city about climate action. So that's cool. Thank you for your service, Katie. Oh, and also Catherine Bierce is on the Climate Action Committee.
Excellent.
Is Catherine the same as Catherine Bierce?
Oh, oops. Maybe I wasn't supposed to.
Yes, how am I famous?
Oh, I know you. You may not remember me. That's all.
CERT training, probably.
If I'm not mistaken, you moved to Albany about a year ago, and I worked with your husband to get some.
Oh yeah, you're the guy who loaned us the
When your electricity was out, I loaned you the CERT's one of CERT's batteries. Yeah, and I forget his name, but I learned some stuff from him about how we should do it.
Oh yeah, exactly. So, one other pitch you could give to people is sign up for getting a battery to power your house in an outage, and you can also use it for I don't know, like just loaning it to neighbors who are doing electrical panel upgrades or something like that.
Yeah, there can be a bit of overlap. I mean, the climate change is a crisis, so it's part of emergency preparedness there.
Oh, if people are interested in acquiring batteries, prices and performance are better today than they were, let's say a year ago or 2 years ago when Albany CERT made some purchases. And one of the things we offer is some technical support on which battery, how can you spend the least, and get the most bang for your buck. Same goes for radio communications. And but when it comes to batteries, this is, again, there's a disaster prep angle, there is a convenience angle. I have brought the Albany CERT battery to Albany Hill to run a string mower to do weed control under the supervision of the park supervisor. And it just has various functions, and not just disaster, not just climate. It's useful for it's been useful for a number of things.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to excuse myself from the meeting, but I hope that if there's anything else you'd like me to do, you'll let me know. And I think this was very helpful, and I think we're on our way, and I wish everybody a happy Halloween.
Okay, thanks, Susan.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you,
Thank-
Susan C. Appreciated what you had to say.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye for now.
Hey, Raymond, was there another thing on the agenda
Yeah.
to?
I think we just get a brief report from Blake about the Listos grant, and then I'll just mention when our next meeting is, and then we'll bring the meeting to a close at that point. So Blake?
Sure. Well, the Listos grant that we've got, I mentioned it at the beginning of the call. I'm not sure if everybody was on when I said that, but we applied for and received a $25,000 grant from Listos to provide CERT training in 2 non-English languages. And so we were looking at Mandarin and possibly it could be Spanish, it could be Japanese. We're using the stats that are in the demographics to do that. In the process of doing this, we found one person, which I mentioned before, who just completed CERT training, who is ready. She's ready to be a CERT instructor in Mandarin. And Callaway S was so excited to have us do this because it's something they've wanted to do, and we were the only ones that came in with that grant situation. Part of the thing we're doing is there's a really cool Listos guide that will be showing up to everybody at some point here. But we wanted to get enough booklets to give every family in Albany a emergency ready guide. It talks a lot about how to prepare, how to get your go kits together, your supplies together, water supplies. But it's really well produced by Cal Listos. And they already shipped it as part of the grant. We get these booklets free as they print them. And so we're going to take advantage of trying to get the language to the families that are out there. And that's what we're trying to accomplish. And then offer CERT training in at least 2 non-English languages in the next 12 months. So we're on our way to do that. It's been a challenge trying to manage the bigger bureaucracy on here, and we're working our way through it. But so it's not the easiest thing to get through, but I think we'll be able to. We may not get it as fully completed as we'd hoped, but I think we'll hit the big blocks and make some big differences because we're already moving down the road with some successes there. So if there's questions about that, I can answer that. Fairly straightforward, tasks we're going after. So it'll be exciting to be teaching. They were really excited and really wanted to make sure we taught non-English language training so that we can get. One thing I did want to say about the Listos guide, it's the same exact content in 60 different languages. So once we know which households are which language and we can get enough booklets out there, everybody, regardless of their language, is going to be having a similar story exactly of how to prepare their own household in a common way, in the same pictures, but the different, the languages are appropriately done. So it's just a chance to get people who might be in isolated parts of our neighborhoods that don't talk to us because maybe some of the people there don't speak very good English, or the older people don't speak English at all. It's a way to maybe break through and we can have that conversation of, hey, we're in the same area to prepare ourselves. Any questions?
good.
Basically it, yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions by anybody for that? That's okay. It's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Thank you, Blake, for that update.
Yep.
Okay,
Um,
oh,
yeah, no, that's fine. I was just
Yeah.
gonna throw out, and I think I already did, was the spring CERT training. I just wanted to get some more people joined in. Tuesday, March 25th is the next CERT training class. If you have people in your neighborhood who want to do CERT training,
Sorry, March when?
March 25th, 2025. And
It's
we'll
in
run.
April on the website, so you should update that on Ready Albany.
Did we do that on Ready Albany? Upside that you said?
If someone's talking about the Ready Albany website, we don't control it. We have no ability to change it. And
Well, we can put in a
sorry,
form.
it's way out of date.
Yeah, we'll have to get. I'll make sure I get it to the fire department in the city to update that in the piece. But we just finished last night, so with the last training, so we'll get to it in the next week. We'll get the information to them and try to get that up.
I wouldn't be referring anyone to readyalbany.org, unfortunately, and there's no roadmap for anyone to be regularly updating the site. So
Really?
even if we got an update, it's going to be stale in 3 months. I do not distribute that URL.
Looks like it's a Squarespace site from what I can see on the logo. I happen to have a background in marketing, and there's Squarespace, Wix, and a couple different sites, hosting type things. Looks like you have Google Sites for the Albany CERT, and then it looks like a Squarespace for the Ready Albany.
Catherine, you're a wonder, and maybe you can get the passwords from Albany Fire, but I can't.
Oh, it's Albany Fire has the Ready Albany piece?
They have the password. It's not a question of who's got the skill. It's a question of who has the access. And I don't have that. No one in this Zoom room has that access.
However, I'm happy to take that conversation to the fire department if anybody has a request or an idea or wants to work on it. I'm sure they would be very open to doing things. It's just that there's so many different things going on in the city of Albany. It's easy to see things slip away for a while once they've gotten some updates.
Yeah, Blake, as long as you don't need a lot of work, if you need me to update 2 words on the page, I can do that. I don't want to be a permanent website administrator, but I can change 2 words on the site, leave me the password.
If someone can get the password, that would be doing very good work for Albany volunteers. I doubt they will just give you the password, though.
However, they probably would if you.
Catherine's in a different category. She might be able to.
I'm an extrovert for hire. I talk to everybody.
Even if you don't get
Jim Bruno, the chief, will remember me from when I met him at the CERT graduation party potluck dinner.
But even if we don't have the direct get the password or whatever, we can still give a piece of paper with saying these are the requests on this line, change this paragraph, this word to this word, submitting that the city, we can make sure that someone gets to that fairly quickly. I can follow to make sure that happens. So even if the city doesn't, I don't know that they're going to want to give the passwords out for things like that.
I don't know if you've ever maintained a website, but adding a layer of requests like that is anyway. I don't want to discourage anyone. I just want you to be realistic about the challenges you face in getting Ready Albany to be a useful resource.
I had a question. The CERT classes, is Albany Ready the primary place where they're ever? I thought the city had a CERT training part.
For CERT training, they have a separate place where they talk about CERT training, but
and that would be up to date, right? I mean,
I don't know if it's up to date yet. I've set the dates and shared it with the fire department. They've approved it. It just needs to be published to the public now.
Yeah. But if we wanted to refer someone to somewhere where they could get the date and know how to sign up, I know when they sign up, they send an email to
There
albanysert@gmail.com.
you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we
So-
can certainly post the Albany CERT classes on the Albany CERT site. We could also try to duplicate that onto the Albany Ready site and onto the City of Albany site.
Speaking of which, we are looking for someone who has the time and inclination to update the Albany CERT website regularly. And that we do control. I don't, Raymond, I hope I'm not stepping on your toes here. But
No,
Well,
no.
and Brett worked on that
does
too.
have time to not a lot of skills are involved, but some more the time and the a little bit of creative thinking about what message do we need to be sending the public. There will be a new CERT class schedule that should go up right away as soon as we know what it is. There might be an event like next spring's Albany Expo, and maybe that needs to get there. These fifth Wednesday meetings, that's 3 or 4 website updates a year right there, just for fifth Wednesday. We really could use some help from someone who might find that interesting.
Yeah, that would be nice.
I'm also aware that the job that we have of recruiting more block captains is effectively a marketing job. So I think we could use some real help there from somebody who knows what they're doing and probably likes doing it. So I think you could be really helpful for this, Catherine.
Amongst your many
I
other,
don't have
Amongst your many, yeah, exactly.
but I can
As if you don't
advise
have it.
someone else if they want some tips on marketing. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a newborn and I'm job hunting, and yeah.
Yeah,
It was Katie who was talking about doing the block captain work.
yeah, a little bit of advice probably would be helpful. I know it's a certain way of looking at things that I don't know that many of us have that skill. I certainly don't. So your advice would certainly be helpful, but I don't need to be meaning to put more work on your plate, but input is helpful here. Thanks.
So our next fifth Wednesday meeting is next year. It's like January 29th. And so we will have to figure out a topic for that next meeting. The organizing group for Albany CERT meets about twice a month, the first and third Tuesday at 1 to 2 o'clock over Zoom. So if any of you want to join in on organizing things, there's that meeting that is open to you.
yeah, and I think
And-
if someone wanted to get the link for that, they can just send an email to albanysert@gmail.com.
Right.
And also, since we're coming to that time of year where you get many pitches for fundraising, just wanted to remind you that Albany CERT is actually a 501c3. So, we, like, people who are part of Albany CERT, we're all volunteers, and some of us have put many hours in doing really great work over the years. And we run on a shoestring budget, but some funds would help us be able to grow and accomplish our goals. So we have a PayPal account, and I'll send out a link to that PayPal account. So
It's on the website too.
it's on the website.
And it's tax deductible, right?
It is.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for coming to the meeting. And we have a wonderful Halloween.
Yeah, I'm wondering if does anyone have any other issues we didn't touch on that they wanted to just bring up or ask questions about? I know we focused primarily on the block captain aspect.
I wanted to say on the block captain, I hope it was clear, this isn't just a one-off meeting on this. If you need support as a block captain, maybe if you're new and you've got questions or problems arise that you didn't anticipated, Albany CERT leadership team wants to hear what your experience is, and we would like to help you resolve it. as I said, Albany Fire has asked us to manage the list and to recruit new block captains. And we'd like to do whatever we can to help that happen.
Nona has a request.
The dump of marketing.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I can't find our block in Nick's map on your map, Nick. I'm on the Carmel Ave across the park. We're only half of a block, so there's only
Yeah,
maybe about 8
yeah,
houses. So I'm,
yeah, again, the idea of blocks was, could be taken in a lot of different ways. If you're on long streets, it kind of makes sense, right? If you're in the little short sections, it almost makes more sense to cull some of those 2 or 3 houses into adjacent, like I'm thinking along Marin, where you might have, 6 houses, and then there's a street, another 6 houses, and there's a street. Might be better just to let one of the side streets curve in and pull those people in, but just for rough illustrative purposes, I just showed dots on, and you might see there were little black there were little black dots that sort of divided up very long blocks. So there was nothing official or scientific about that. So again, it's, Carmel is a pretty straight street. Yeah, it should be, there's a dot on
yeah.
every block there.
Well, I'm between Thousand Oaks and Portland, and we're right directly across the Memorial Park. Yeah, and that's only probably about 8, maybe 8 houses.
Yeah.
And Yvette, who's a CERT grad, and I've been talking about, can we have a block captain? If we had one, then we can start something, but we don't know whether there's already one or maybe we have to find someone. And I said, why don't I volunteer your husband? She's like, ask him if he wants to be a block captain, but we don't want to step on someone's toes if there's one already.
Well, if there is a block captain, you don't know about them, they're not doing a very good job if you're in the neighborhood. So, again,
they may have something in their garage that they're willing to give away. Maybe they really gave this job up, but they've got the blocking and cribbing.
Yeah.
Simple. So I think it's worth investigating who we had and what the status on that one is. This isn't a great moment, but this is a good moment. 8 houses adjacent to Memorial Park would be so good if we could get 8 houses organized adjacent to what is probably a very important place in a disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then we have a new family that just moved in. So it's like, I'd love to welcome them or have something, just talk about emergency preparation. But
put some thought into this idea that Memorial Park itself is likely to be a gathering place for the whole neighborhood. And eventually we were hoping that, block captains might have a sort of for the evac zone they're in, maybe there would be a captain of the evac zone, or in El Cerrito, the word district. Some people sometimes talk about the district incident command post is organizes all the local incident command posts. So you could think of it as the district or the evac zone. You're in a very strategic place. We really would love to. I know you do a lot for CERT, Nona, but we would really love to have 8 homes organized adjacent to Memorial.
Yeah, and actually, that could expand out. Blake, you've raised your hand quite a few times.
Just the point I wanted to point out is that many people will find they're not sure who the block captain is, or they haven't figured it out. And I think first of all, there's nothing that says there's only one block captain. You should have a block captain team of 2 or 3 or 4 people, because when the incident hits, someone could be in the city or out of town traveling, whatever. So you need to have redundancy and people that can help and fill in, and people get burnt out and other people can step up. So do not think that you can't step in. And if someone says, no, I'm the only block captain and nobody else can be block captain, that's a red flag that it should be discussed by your neighbors. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds
Yeah,
good.
I would think any of the remaining block captains from 97 era would probably be thankful to have someone coming in to, if you showed up and they go, oh, they'd probably go, oh, wow, I've kind of dropped the ball on that. I'm so glad you're stepping up. So I don't think you're gonna step on anyone's toes.
Okay.
Well, it's true what Nick says. One of the leaders on Washington Street, I think she's just simply aged out. She's there, but
Yeah.
her health isn't what it was, and we oughtn't rely on her. We ought to find someone to take her place.
Well, to be continued, block captains.
Mhm.
But we got one. We got one. Thank you.
Great. Hey, can you share that slideshow, the slide deck? There's actually some pretty good content on there in terms of ideas of meetings to do. Maybe there's a better format, but it might be helpful for those of us who are block captains to think about, it's like, oh yeah, I could organize a meeting about this, that, or the other topic.
Yeah, did that kind of get distilled out of the block captain manual?
No,
Might have. I know the block captain manual has similar stuff in it.
we know the material, so it kind of fell out of that.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Some folks on Thousand Evelyn asked for a meeting, and I'm not sure what they want. A vague idea. How shall we prepare?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send out a link to the slide deck.
We'll
Thank
see.
you, Raymond.
Well, it would be interesting too on the block captains if people have a presentation of some kind or notes to maybe we could have an archive bank that other block teams could look at what another block team is doing and share ideas. I don't know, just a thought.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, no point to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I have one thing that is easy to do as a block captain, which is there's a video series that the Earthquake Alliance does. They do the Great Shakeout, and they have like 6 videos on YouTube, and you just set them up on your TV and watch them as a group. They're pretty good. And it does help people think about, what they're going to do in different situations. Like, what do you do if you're in bed? What do you do if you're in a theater? I forget. There's 6 different situations. I only said 2 of them. But and then there's some, what do you do if you have a walker or you're using a cane? They're pretty good. And that is a super easy one to do, because all you have to do is, if you have like, you could watch them on a laptop, or I just put them on the TV with my Chromecast and we watched them.
That's a great idea.
That's a
Yeah,
great
and then
idea.
Yeah, I think so.
and not a ton of people showed up. I think maybe there are 2 or 3, but it sort of doesn't matter because it doesn't take that much effort.
Somebody's playing the video.
Drop, cover.
Yeah, all you have to do is
hold on.
play the video
Other self-
and talk about it.
There we go. Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
It's a great idea.
and actually the good idea with that is you can send out, if you contact your people by email, you can email them all, but you could attach the addresses and maybe they'll look at them themselves. So,
You absolutely can. And I send that link out every shakeout. And so I don't know if people actually ever look at them, but I know we did have, one day when we got together and did that.
Yeah.
You might have to
Earthquake
serve
Country Alliance.
refreshments, but other than that, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, refreshments are always good to get people to come.
Yeah.
That gets people to show up.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great idea. Thank
Yeah,
you.
great idea.
Yeah, I think that's the most recent actual physical meeting that we had. So,
Oh, okay. That's
yeah.
pretty cool.
Okay.
Oh, Catherine.
Also, I want to mention that
Catherine,
City of Albany is already starting to get their schedules for the spring 2025 activity guide. So I don't know if the CERT training for March is already has been submitted
Yes,
to, okay.
yes.
Yeah, I'm surprised they're working on their stuff early because they usually wait at the last minute.
I not
Drives
only
me
have, I have
crazy.
that date, and I also have next fall's date already to them as well. So
Good.
the whole next year is given to them for them to add to their newsletters.
Yeah, because they're so last minute. You know, when instructors are asked to submit our schedules of classes for them, like within 2 weeks,
Wow. Yeah.
you know, description and everything, and then they never do it right. So I just wanted to tell you that
Thank you.
in case they forgot.
So Catherine has her hand up.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, to whom here can I give a data dump of marketing advice?
Just send it to the Albany CERT@gmail.com email,
Okay,
and
cool.
it'll
Thanks.
get to the board members. And we'll have to have at one of our next meetings, we've kind of put it off because nobody likes to think about fundraising and marketing. It's more fun to think about projects and doing things. But anyway, thank you very much, Catherine.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, are we done with our meeting now, Raymond, or?
I think so.
Great.
We're
Thanks
past
for
8:30.
Raymond. I appreciate all. I know that you made this happen tonight.
Oh, my pleasure. All
Great.
right, everyone.
All right.
Have a good
Thank you.
evening.
Okay.
Good to meet you, you
Okay.
folks. Good night.
Yeah, thank you for coming, and look forward to next time.
Bye.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Mm.
Sure.